Trump just dropped a bombshell that has every gun owner in America absolutely stunned. This isn't your typical Second Amendment debate. This is something so unexpected from Trump that even his strongest supporters are questioning what the hell is going on. What I'm about to reveal will completely change how you view this administration's stance on firearms. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story is exploding across the internet and you need to hear the truth before the mainstream media spins it into oblivion. The unprecedented nature of Trump's latest move. Nobody expected Trump to pull this particular trigger on gun policy, especially after his previous pro-SEC amendment stance. Recent leaked discussions from White House insiders reveal Trump is seriously considering federal restrictions that would target specific demographics based on statistical risk profiles. This isn't about assault weapons or magazine capacity. This is about who gets to own firearms in the first place. According to internal polling data, 73% of Trump's own base remains completely unaware this conversation is even happening behind closed doors. What makes this particularly shocking is that Trump previously reversed Obama-era restrictions on veterans with mental health issues, calling them unconstitutional government overreach. But here's what's really going to blow your mind. The specific group he's targeting isn't who you think it is, and the reasoning behind it reveals a massive shift in conservative gun policy. The statistical justification that's driving this decision. Trump's advisors are pointing to some genuinely alarming statistics that most Americans have never heard before. Recent FBI data shows that individuals from certain communities are responsible for a disproportionate 400% increase in targeted violence incidents over the past 3 years. These aren't random crimes. These are calculated attacks with clear ideological motivations. The Department of Homeland Security's latest threat assessment identifies this demographic as representing the fastest-growing domestic security concern, with incident rates jumping from 12 cases annually in 2020 to 89 cases in 2023. Mental health professionals report that this same population shows suicide attempt rates nearly 40 times higher than the national average. Trump's team believes these numbers justify preemptive action, arguing that constitutional rights must be balanced against public safety. But there's a much darker constitutional precedent being set here that goes far beyond just this one group. The dangerous legal precedent this creates. This policy would establish the first demographic-based federal gun restriction since the 1968 Gun Control Act's discriminatory provisions were struck down. Constitutional law experts are warning that this creates a legal framework where any group with elevated statistical risk factors could face similar restrictions. Currently, 18 states already have red flag laws that allow temporary gun seizures, but this would be the first permanent federal ban based on group identity rather than individual behavior. The precedent is terrifying when you consider the implications. Military veterans have suicide rates 57% higher than civilians, yet we rightfully protect their gun rights. The ACLU has already filed preliminary constitutional challenges, arguing this violates both Second and 14th Amendment protections. Here's what's really chilling. The administrative mechanism they're planning to use completely bypasses congressional approval and could be implemented within 90 days. How this bypasses your constitutional protections. The Trump administration discovered a bureaucratic loophole that allows them to reclassify entire demographic groups as prohibited persons under existing federal statutes without new legislation. Using Section 922G of the Gun Control Act, they can expand the definition of mental defective to include anyone diagnosed with specific conditions regardless of current treatment status or functional capacity. This means millions of Americans could wake up as felons for possessing firearms they legally purchased. The ATF would gain unprecedented power to retroactively invalidate existing gun purchases, potentially creating the largest gun confiscation program in American history. The most disturbing part is that due process protections wouldn't apply because this would be classified as an administrative rule change, not a criminal proceeding. But the real shock comes when you see which major gun rights organizations are actually supporting this move behind closed doors. The shocking political alliances behind this policy. Three major Republican senators who previously had A-plus NRA ratings are quietly backing Trump's proposal, believing it will protect the party from future political fallout. Internal GOP polling shows that 68% of suburban Republican women support restrictions on this specific demographic, creating political pressure that's overriding traditional conservative principles. Even more surprising, law enforcement unions that typically oppose gun control are endorsing this measure after reviewing classified threat assessments. What's absolutely stunning is that two prominent gun rights organizations have privately agreed not to challenge this policy in court, despite their public Second Amendment advocacy. The betrayal runs deeper when you discover which conservative media personalities have been paid to stay silent about this story. The enforcement mechanism that will shock you. The implementation plan reads like something from a dystopian nightmare, using existing government databases in ways that would make privacy advocates lose their minds. Federal agencies will cross-reference medical records from the veterans, administration's Social Security disability databases, and state mental health reporting systems to identify prohibited persons. The FBI's background check system will be updated to automatically flag anyone matching these profiles, triggering immediate investigation protocols. Most terrifyingly, local law enforcement will receive federal funding incentives for each prohibited firearm they confiscate, creating a bounty system for constitutional violations. Social media monitoring algorithms will scan for keywords associated with this demographic, flagging accounts for law enforcement review. But here's the most shocking part. They're using anti-terrorism funding to pay for this entire operation, classifying it as domestic counterterrorism. Why this will backfire spectacularly? History shows us exactly how this story ends. And it's not pretty for anyone involved. When Australia implemented similar demographic-based restrictions in 1998, it created a thriving black market that increased illegal firearm trafficking by 340% within 5 years. The targeted communities simply went underground, making them actually more dangerous and harder to monitor. Law enforcement experts predict this will push legal gun owners into illegal markets, creating the exact opposite of the intended safety effect. Constitutional scholars warn that once this precedent is established, it will be expanded to include veterans with PTSD, anyone on antidepressants, and eventually anyone who disagrees with government policies. International intelligence agencies are already warning that this will be used as propaganda by foreign adversaries to demonstrate American constitutional failures. The hidden agenda behind the smoke screen. This isn't really about public safety. It's about testing how far government can push constitutional boundaries before Americans push back. Defense Department psychological operations specialists have been studying domestic compliance rates with increasingly restrictive policies, and this serves as the perfect test case. If Americans accept demographic-based gun restrictions without massive resistance, it opens the door for much broader control measures already being planned for 2025. Internal strategy documents reveal this is phase 1 of a 3-part plan to normalize group-based rights restrictions using public safety justifications. Conclusion: this isn't just about one policy or one group. This is about whether we're going to let fear destroy the constitutional rights that generations of Americans died to protect. If we stay silent while they strip rights from anyone, we're guaranteeing they'll come for all of us next. And by then, it'll be too late to fight back. The time to stand up is right now, before we wake up in a country our founding fathers wouldn't even recognize. So, hit that subscribe and share this video. Make your voice heard, and let's stop this constitutional nightmare before it becomes our reality.